A lot of people worry that pre-existing conditions hurt their case. One of an insurance company's favorite dispute is going to be aggravation of pre-existing condition. They have this strategy where they say, well, if you're already hurt, we don't owe you for anything. That is not the law in Louisiana. The law in Louisiana is you take your victim as you find them. And what that means is if you have a young victim that has never been hurt in their life and you injure them, you owe them for the full injury. On the flip side, if you take somebody who's older, who has arthritis or pre-existing conditions, the same thing applies to them. If a new injury, accident, causes them to hurt worse, become worse, have a worsening of their condition, what we call an aggravation of the condition, the at-fault party and the insurance company, they owe for the full extent of the aggravation. Let me give you an example. Let's say a grandmother and her 8-year-old grandson are walking into Rouse's in Lafayette, and they both slip on grapes. The 8-year-old grandson bounces back up. The grandmother can hardly get up. She's broken like Humpty Dumpty. So an insurance company might say, well, we don't owe the grandmother anything because she was elderly and she already had arthritis. That is not what the law is. The law says you better be careful if you encounter a grandmother who's already having problems because she's weaker than an 8-year-old grandson. So when she takes the exact same fall on the exact same substance, she is at much greater risk to be way worse than she was when she walked into the store. So what the law says is you take the victim as you find them and you owe for the full extent of the worsening. So in that scenario, same thing with car wrecks. If you rear end somebody who already had some problems in their neck, there's a much greater chance you're going to hurt them than somebody who didn't have a problem in their neck. And you don't just owe the person that never had a problem in the neck. You're also accountable to the person who had previous problems, and you probably are accountable for a lot more damage in that case because they're a lot more susceptible. They're at much greater risk for injury than a perfectly healthy person. So don't be afraid of pre-existing conditions. Everybody has them. You can't find somebody who didn't have something in their life, whether it was just silent arthritis or a previous broken bone. If the problem becomes worse, the at-fault party is 100% accountable for worsening. It's easier to prove new damage. Say I'm a teenager, you rear end them and they break the wrist. That's easy to prove. It is a little bit more difficult to prove the worsening or the aggravation of a pre-existing condition. It will definitely take a doctor's testimony, particularly it'd be very helpful if the doctor knew you before the crash and after the crash, because it's very easy for them to see the worsening. But even if you weren't seeing a doctor for your pre-existing condition, you still have methods of being able to prove the worsening. Sometimes it's through imaging. Imaging is a great way to prove the worsening. Let's say you had a neck problem 4 years before the wreck and you had an MRI. There was a little problem there that might be causing you some pain, but it wasn't that bad of a problem that you could see on the MRI. Then you get in a crash and your neck hurts way worse. A good idea would be to re-image the neck, do another MRI and see, was there a difference from 4 years ago? And so there are ways that you can demonstrate objectively that something got worse. You can also, even if it's not objective, it could just be subjective. It might be that you don't have a doctor who saw you before. You don't have imaging or x-rays or MRIs from before. You might just have a coworker who has worked with you for the last 10, 15 years who would say, I used to watch her get up from her desk and she was fine. She could walk away with no problem and she had stamina all day long. And then after the crash, I noticed she needs assistance to get up. She limps. I can see her face wincing. So there can be subjective ways to prove a worsening of a condition as well.
I'm attorney Amber Lorio at Dudley DeBosier Injury Lawyers. If you've been injured, we do free consultations 24/7, so please give us a call.